Hi chaps, SimOP here from Beard, Biceps and Batchat. Today we are going to look at the newly released Vindicator Charioteer, and we're going to ask ourselves that all-important question: is this tank worth it, or should I spend my money taking the missus out or going to the pub and getting a few pints? So the tank itself is a fairly pretty tank. It's just been released in a bundle with the Matilda Defiance. It's part of the partnership with Dunkirk. That was the premiere last night, so they're releasing the tank bundle today. So you get a unique camo on this tank, which is, you know, looks fairly pretty. It's not too bad. Some nice emblems on the tank. So this tank is a tier 8 British TD that is based on the Tech Tree Charioteer. Now I'm going to be quite careful with this review because I had a comment last time where I was a bit unbiased in my review, so I'm going to try to be a bit more, a bit biased. I'm going to try to be a bit more unbiased and as objective as possible while I do this review. So the Charioteer itself is essentially a big gun put on a Cromwell, which has all the benefits that you can imagine. It's a nice quick tank, it's got a lovely gun, and it's a British tank, which means potentially you're getting access to Hesh as well, which I know everyone loves. I know I love it on my Centurion Action X, so I can only imagine how good it is on the Charioteer at tier 8. So the tank itself is, well, it's fairly pretty. The tier 8 version anyway has, on the tech tree, is a really good tank, especially when you get it fully upgraded. Now this tank is fully upgraded minus, well, except for one thing, but we'll run through that. So firstly, what I want to talk about is what are the good points of this tank and what makes this tank good. So firstly, this tank is a turreted TD. Now it comes with a lot of benefits. If you really want, you can play it as a sniping TD, put your camo net on it, put your binos on it. When you're tracking enemies, you're not going to lose your binos, lose your camo net, because you're having to turn your hull. It's a big advantage. I know it's absolutely deadly when you have it on the Borsig and the Waffenträger. So very big plus for the Vindicator Charioteer as well as the normal Charioteer. Now this tank has also got a great top speed, as you'd imagine, being on the chassis of a Cromwell. So you're able to reach 52 kilometers per hour fairly quickly and fairly reliably, because you've got a great power to weight ratio of 21.53 with 650 horsepower. So it is a quick moving tank and you're able to get to your top speed quickly. Now this should give you a little bit of an idea of how your gameplay with this tank should be. Now also, because this is based on the Cromwell, this tank has a fairly low profile, and as you can see from the concealment rating of 60, the camo on this tank is actually quite good. Now that's further enhanced because you're getting permanent camo as well when you buy this tank, so it gives you the option of playing a little bit more stealthily. You don't have to play it as an aggressive fast TD, say for example the Hellcat. You don't have to play it running around the map shooting and coming back into cover. You can take advantage of the camo, take your time, and again just play the mid-range, the long-range game. So that's definitely a benefit, that you have several different play styles that you can play successfully with this tank. Now normally I would go on to the gun if this was a normal tier 8 British Tech Tree Charioteer and absolutely gush over how good the top gun is. So let's pretend for a second, just for a second, that this has the top gun. So that top gun would have 268mm of normal penetration, 390 alpha, 210mm of Hesh with 480 potential damage with 0.35 accuracy, 2.4 aim time, and just, oh heaven, 6 rounds a minute. Beautiful gun. This is not that. This is a buffed stock Charioteer gun, and the buff isn't big. The buff is an extra round a minute. So let me go over the gun, and then let me tell you the problems with the gun. So the gun itself is the 20-pounder A barrel, 226mm of penetration, 230 alpha damage, 10 rounds a minute. That's where the buff comes from. 3.4 dispersion, 2.3 aim time. Here's the problem. If you have ever played a stock tier 8 tank, you know when you go into a tier 10 game with a stock gun, you're not penning anything. You know if you go into a tier 9 game, you're not penning anything. It is a big problem to have the stock gun on this premium tank. It really just not cripples it, but just makes it far more challenging than it needs to be. Totally offsets all the bonuses. There's no point long range sniping in this tank using your camo, just because you don't have the penetration to do any damage. You've not got hash to sort of just fling that around. It just completely takes away one style of play from you, because you don't have the penetration to play it. Now, the other way that I mentioned playing this tank is running around the map, taking advantage between enemy reloads, popping out, throwing 390 damage at someone, or 480 damage if you had access to the top tier gun of the Charioteer. You don't have that either, because you've only got 230mm of alpha damage, so you might get 1 or 2 in, but it's, you know, with the lack of pen, it's not a guarantee that you're going to penetrate. So the gun being the stock one is just a little bit of a problem for me, but let's carry on with the review. So the tank itself, as I said, sees up to tier 10. It does not have preferential matchmaking. It's going to struggle with the gun at tier 9, tier 10, potentially even tier 8s frontally. Hopefully you're not trying to engage other tier 8s frontally with this tank. The gun depression isn't great. It works out at 5 degrees, so if you played the Cromwell and the Cromet, you know they've got very good gun depression. You can take advantage of ridge lines. You're not going to be able to do that in this tank. Again, 5 degree gun depression, just it's not helping. The ammo count on this tank is fairly low as well. Now, if you're shooting 10 rounds a minute and only doing 230 alpha damage, with the ammo count that this tank has, your potential damage is around 8,000 damage in a game. That's not enough. There's a lot of players out there who will absolutely blow through that trying to carry a game, and you'll find yourself running out of ammunition really quickly. As you can see here, so you've got 35 rounds of ammunition. With a fast firing low alpha gun and low pen gun, again, that is problematic. If you had the access to the top package gun, not as problematic, because it's a nasty gun throwing out almost double the amount of damage. Now, the armour, whether this is a Tech Tree Charioteer or the Vindicator Charioteer, because it's based on a Cromwell, you know, there is no armour on this tank. I suppose that can be seen as well, no, it is a disadvantage, but for that disadvantage you get a higher top speed, you get a lower profile, better camo. I'm happy to trade off armour for better speed and better camo. Armour is only, because of the how to put this, because of how much premium is shot at higher tiers, armour only goes so far, whereas camo and speed are far more likely to stop you getting shot. Armour is only useful once you are getting shot. So for me, that's a good trade-off, and it's, you know, it's not too big a problem. The HP pool on this tank isn't particularly large either. Again, having good camo and good speed, it doesn't really matter overly too much about the HP pool of the tank. Now, in terms of playing the tank, my thought would be, as I said before, there's 2 ways you can play this tank. You can either play it as you would, say, a Hellcat. So the way you would do that on a city map is you would move around the main engagements. Between tank reloads, you would pop out, fire a shot or 2, pop back in and use the rate of fire, or if you have the main gun, put a shot in, pull back in, and use your speed to relocate during your reloads to do the exact same again. The other option you have is to play this as a sniping TD with the ability to quickly relocate to support pushes, either a green push or a red push, with your gun. You have the speed to do that. So because you have a fairly decent camo, well no, a good camo, fairly decent view range of 370 meters, with being a premium tank, you can also use a very experienced crew in that. That'll buff it. It gives you a real ability to play the long range game as well. So we've got a couple of ways you can play this tank, which are interesting and a little bit different from other TDs you might see. Now, in terms of the price of this tank, this is, I suppose, the cost bit. Is this tank getting to be worth it? So the cost for this tank is, well, it says 15,600 here, that's because it's part of a bundle, but individually this tank at its lowest bundle is going to cost 12,500 gold. Now for me, this is following a trend we've seen with wargaming, which is we get a tank that's available in the tech tree that isn't the upgraded version with a unique camo. So exactly what we saw with the Huntsman Centurion tank. To me, this is an overpriced reskin that is an underpowered tech tree tank. Now, I did the maths before the video. For 12,500 gold, you can free EXP all the way up to the tech tree tier 8 Charioteer, with the option of grinding out, getting the top gun and finishing the line. This tank is exactly the same for the same amount of money, with no option to progress, no preferential matchmaking. The only thing you are getting with this tank over the stock tech tree tank is slightly faster rate of fire with the stock guns, well, with the guns, a unique camo which you can purchase for silver in game. I think it'll be about 22,500 silver per camo per week. So for me, this is not a tank I'll be pressing X on to purchase the bundle. I see no real benefit from it. I feel you're better off waiting for something unique. This isn't a unique tank. This is a continuation of a trend to see how successful it will be putting tanks out there. If you are someone who is in desperate need of a tier 8 British tank, I can understand you going for it. Fine, there's better options out there. If you are a tank collector, I can see you going for it. But for me, someone who plays tanks not to collect them, but because they're either useful for crew training, either for silver grinding, or they're a really, really good tank, this doesn't tick any of those boxes for me, or provide me with something I don't already have in my garage. So for me, this is not a tank I'll be pressing X on, and I'm sure my missus will be very, very happy as she walks around the room grinning. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below of this tank. Is this a continuation of a worrying trend that we've been seeing from wargaming? Do you think this tank is worth it? Let me know, guys. I hope you're enjoying the content. The next thing we'll be looking at is the Defiance Matilda. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you next time, chaps.